everybody. Kevin Harned with you, Ryan Hoke. We're glad you're sitting in with us for another little edition here of Wave Weather Now. We're streaming on all of our platforms, so we'll let some folks get settled in. If you are on some of our social channels, go ahead and share it out, retweet it, share it so folks can know. We're going to go through the whole winter weather setup that we have for tomorrow and some of the data that's just now coming in. And we'll also talk about later in the week. We've got 2 alert days, one for tomorrow for snow, another one down the road for thunderstorms.
This is
busy.
One of the most active weather patterns we will likely have in all of 2025 when we're, kind of going from storms to snow and back again here. Next week does look quite winter-like after that round of storms. So we're going to possibly do this all again. Get ready for everything. Everybody's like, what do I wear? Like everything. Just keep it all out of your closet and on the bed ready to go.
Yeah, Kevin Anderson, he's on YouTube. He said, I hope it's a bust. At this point, maybe we do too. Let's just end winter, right? Groundhog.
He was right this year. 6 more weeks of winter. Heck yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen around here. JCPS, by the way, already declaring NTI for tomorrow. They pulled the trigger on that a little earlier than usual tonight because of the winter weather, not necessarily the flu this time, which is what they did today and Friday.
Well, I think it makes it so easy now. If they have their tablets or whatever they use,
Chromebooks,
if they have that at home, it's like, all right, let's do a non-traditional instruction for the NTI day.
It's kind of the good fallback now. Traditional snow days still exist, but they're not like it was when we were kids.
Yeah, that was a true snow day. You didn't have to worry about sitting inside doing the work, right?
And now it's like, oh, by the way, your work comes home with you now. It happens in your job too. So I guess that's one way to prepare the kids, right?
Does it make them any smarter?
I don't know. Don't ask me that. I'm not a certified teacher.
I don't know. I don't have kids, so I don't know. But I wondered. All right, let's get settled in here. We appreciate everybody jumping on. It's 8:18, and there just went the. If you have the Wave Weather app, you just received the push notification that says we're on live, and of course we sent that out on the news app as well. So we really transmit this across a number of platforms. This is coming out over our app. This is on our 24/7 weather channel, Wave Weather Now. It's Louisville's only 24/7 streaming weather channel. And that's been a real good source of weather information. Well, when we're on live nonstop, like last week with the tornado warnings, that's a place to always go to find us. And of course, you can find it on your app too. Just go down to Watch Live, and that's where we'll be. When we're doing things like this ahead of storms, which we try to do when there's an alert day, we try to jump ahead of it and say, all right, let's do a little deep dive of what's going on, or also on our social platforms.
Yeah, and that's Facebook, that's YouTube, that's X as well. And we can see all your comments that you're putting in on our live streams on those platforms or social media accounts, if you will, here, and put them all in one place so that we can display them, respond to them. We can also see how many folks are watching. I'm looking down at the screen. We have 606 people watching just on our social live streams and countless thousands right now on our Wave Weather app and the Wave News app as well. A number of places you can watch us here. We try to put it all in one place, though, so that you can have the latest information about these, winter weather and severe weather situations like we're encountering here the last few weeks and that we will be encountering over the next several weeks. Now that we've got everybody in place, let's talk about the alert day, shall we?
Yeah, let's dive in, jump in. We've flagged this, and this is the beautiful part. If you've been in these live streams with us before, you've heard this. If you're new, thank you for jumping in. But we have alert days because in a noisy world, how many years ago was this? Like 20. When did we start the alert days?
Oh, alert days started in January 2019. Yeah, so this has been about 6 years.
So 6 years we've been doing this. And this was really something that we worked with our corporate office on at the time to really develop and hone in. So it's not something that was just like, all right, what we'll do is make a mockery of weather days and slap an alert on it so more people watch. No, it's not that at all. In fact, we pushed back for about a year, maybe 8 months, to say, let us develop some really good criteria for alert days so that we're not crying wolf, so that we can match it with the data that we have that says, all right, there's at least some credibility behind what they're looking at. So now we sort of lead the company in how we do alert days. First weather or first alert weather days for many of our colleagues across the gray media channels. With that said, last week we had our eyes on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, and we said, "Hey, let's pay close attention. Let's flag it as an alert day." The data kept really was in decent agreement back then that we were going to get some snow. It's always way too early a week in advance to pinpoint exactly how much or exactly where, but when the data is consistent enough, and we had both long-range models pointing to it for a number of runs back to back, we said, hey, let's go ahead and put that alert day out so people can be prepared. And what the alert day is meant to do is just say, yoo-hoo, in a busy world that we all live in, as you're scrolling through your feeds and your mind is filling up with busy stuff because you've got kids running here or there and you've got work to do, and many of us have more than one job, and it's all this stuff going on in the world in the fast pace. The alert day is meant to say, hey, pay attention over here. This might be a day you need to pay attention. The weather might interrupt your plans on this day. And here we are with the alert day for Tuesday.
So we tried to declare these early. The Tuesday alert day was declared last week, and we'd be able to hone in on the timing of this. This is between 3 a.m. and 11 p.m. Now, most of the snow will fall in the morning on Tuesday. However, we'll still have some light snow and even a little bit of rain in some spots all the way through the evening hours. This is snow for most of us. This is rain for extreme southern Kentucky. If you're down toward Columbia, Campbellsville, down toward Bonneville, areas closer to even like Litchfield, you may be somewhat in the rain for most of this event. So that's why we've declared the alert day there is for mostly for the snow. Slick travel is likely tomorrow between I-64 and the Western Kentucky and Bluegrass Parkways. I should say that temperatures tomorrow will hover at or just above freezing much of the day. Road crews will have a good old time getting the snow off the roads. It should be easy to knock out of the way. The road treatment should work well in these temperatures tomorrow, and that's going to really help us out in the road department. So this is the timing that we're looking at.
Yeah, let's roll through the timing. We'll talk more about the impacts. We'll try to break down the map on your area of what we're looking at now. And then we're going to talk about some of the data that's coming in right now as we're speaking, because we have some of the high resolution data that's coming in as we speak. Let's talk about this time frame as it begins. Well, obviously, we have the winter storm warning already in place. I'm going to show you the map on that. Winter weather advisories on both sides of that. But the snow doesn't begin until well after midnight, probably 3, 4 o'clock here in Louisville. So we'll say between 3 a.m., this is for our viewing area, and we serve 34 counties. So between 3 a.m. and noon tomorrow is where we're going to have the heaviest opportunity for the snow to fall. And that means on the untreated roads, because of the snowfall rate, we could see the accumulation build up and wind up with slick roads, especially on the untreated roads. We get past the noon time frame and we're in the afternoon, things are already starting to ease. So this really is a morning snowmaker for us as it moves in. Still some lingering lighter snow showers in the afternoon and even into the evening off to our east. And then temperatures during the afternoon are going to go just above freezing. So that's going to help out. I mean, we melt the snow effectively, even in the upper 20s to low 30s. Certainly during the daytime, if we're above freezing, we've got a lot of melting going on. And that's why when Ryan mentioned the roads, issues there will be limited to those who see the heaviest rates of snowfall and those roads that have not been treated. Temperatures will fall back below freezing, though, after 11 p.m. tomorrow evening, and that's where we could see some refreeze. By that point, the precipitation would have been ended, but what is on the ground could still cause some problems.
So let's go zone by zone here. If you're in southern Indiana, and when I mean southern Indiana, we're talking Clark County and north of there, your timing on this situation would be between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. on Tuesday. Again, it looks like it would be a little later for you guys because this snow will move in from south to north. So that 3 a.m. timing doesn't apply to you. However, there will be some light snow, and it would be 100% snow for you guys because you're on the north side of this. Your temperature's just a slight bit colder, dusting to an inch possible. Our central Kentucky counties and those counties along I-64, I've lumped you all together today, 4 a.m. to 11 p.m., heavier snow with slick roads that are untreated. Pretty much a lock here. 2 to 4 inches of snow in this zone, but locally more. There are some 4+ inch totals possible. This would be that zone, especially just south of Louisville and southeast of Louisville, where that's possible. And that's primarily why that winter storm warning was issued, is because of that 4-inch plus potential.
Yeah, and we could see that's going to be right on the edge of that transition. That's going to be the heaviest. So consequently, you wind up pulling down with the heavier precip, the colder temperatures, you get the heavy snow. So there'll be a band in there. And then some individual banding features that we could see through there as well. So that's something we'll be watching. And then, of course, you see the rain farther to the south. You'll have far less in terms of snow accumulation.
Yeah, 3 a.m. to 11 p.m. is your main timing in southern Kentucky. That's Litchfield to Columbia to Campbellsville to Munfordville. You might see a little bit of snow, mostly rain. If you did see snow, a dusting at best down that way, maybe an inch in the northern part of Taylor County there, a little closer to the Lebanon and Springfield.
Yeah, let's talk about some travel impacts then. So on area roads, the worst time that we're looking at would be during the early morning hours and mid-morning hours tomorrow. The untreated roads are going to be slick, especially for those getting the heavier burst of snow or the heavier rate of snow. Even in the afternoon, the side roads will have the opportunity to stay snow-covered or slick, just because if we get a quick 2, 3, 4 inches of snow, it doesn't melt instantly. You have to have at least some kind of travel over it, or plows going through it, or salt being put down on it. So that's the that time frame through the afternoon and evening, and then consequently even into the morning hours on Wednesday, because we're going to have the colder temperatures and consequently some slick spots on the side roads mainly. Main roads should clear up pretty quick, I'd say as early as tomorrow mid-afternoon.
And this is not like January because of that. The temperature is a huge differentiator between the two big storms we had in January here. This one is more like a March snow, as we called it in the weather office today. Gets on the ground quickly, it's wet, it's heavy, and it melts quickly as well. And that's what we'll see, especially heading through Wednesday afternoon. Once we transition to rain with temperatures in the 40s, this will be gone quick. But for some folks, like the person here on YouTube, she says, at my job, snow piles from January are still in the parking lot. You can still find a limited 1 or 2 of those.
Yeah, there aren't very many. No. That 170-degree plus day that we had, that wiped it out.
That
right?
kind of nuked most of those snow piles.
And by the way, that was the last time we were on in the evening hours, because that preceded the tornado day.
That's right.
That we were like, well, we're going to have to watch these storms overnight. Remember, everybody woke up the next morning with the tornado warnings to our south.
Yeah, the EF1 in Hart County. Down there. So that was a big deal.
Volatile when you go from the 70s and record highs, which we had, was that last Tuesday?
Yeah, it was last Tuesday.
And then boom into Wednesday night.
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning, we wound up seeing the very strong storms. These are current temperatures. Most of you are in the 30s at this point. Here in the city, we're still at 40 degrees. We are going to note that these temperatures will drop likely below freezing for most of us overnight tonight. So let's dive into the setup. You can see the initial signs of the storm moving in, and that's the increase in cloud cover that we've had from the west. That cloud cover will continue to build in here through the rest of the evening and overnight. And then on the wider nationwide view, you can see the cold front coming in from the north, and you also see that moisture streaming up from Dallas up through Oklahoma, Arkansas into Tennessee. That is the push of moisture that's coming in our direction as well, and consequently the precip chances start first in our southernmost counties. The winter weather is on the map in a number of places, and these are all the winter weather alerts.
Yeah, in the pink there, you see the winter storm warning. That purple kind of periwinkle shade, if you will, is the winter weather advisory. Wherever you have the winter storm warning, you have at least a chance of getting 4 inches or more of snow. It's not a guarantee. Wherever you have that winter weather advisory, it's usually somewhere between about 1 and 4 inches, but that could be a moving target in terms of criteria from the National Weather Service based on kind of what they're feeling the impact is of a system here. So this is all about impacting you folks at home with a wet, heavy snow early tomorrow morning that just increases through the morning hours and potentially will snarl some travel and, of course, cancel school, as we've seen already, for much of our counties heading through tomorrow.
Yeah, and I want to zoom past. We don't have any severe weather risk. I had those in there. I thought I'd taken most of those out. So we'll just
and this was from last week,
zoom
right?
past
We've
that.
had to have graphics for both severe weather and winter weather in our newscasts here. So our workspaces where our weather graphics are kind of a mess for everybody right now. It's kind of tough.
All right, let me walk you through it. We showed you the map sort of divided out by region. Here's the whole region. Notice the precip coming up from the south. Again, initially a little rain mixing in, but you see the bulk of the heavier rain is on the backside of the system, on the southern side of the system. So we bring in the snow across the area. It lifts north of the parkways, the Western Kentucky and the Bluegrass parkways, and that's where we wind up seeing the cold air in place. And while, yes, temperatures may be slightly above freezing, it's still bringing down cold enough air that we'll see the precip fall as snow. And it can still accumulate, even with surface temperatures above freezing because of the rate. And that's what's important, is knowing the rate. If it were just very light snow, sure, it would get gobbled up by the wet ground or the warm ground in some cases, or even the air temperature if it's above 32. But boy, when we're starting to really crank up or throttle down the precip rate, it can't keep up. So consequently, it accumulates. And that's what we've been talking about. So we see that we go through the morning hours. Here we are, 9 a.m. We've got snow falling from just south of the parkways all the way up to the river. And then the warmer temperatures try to lift in to our southernmost communities. And once that happens, we will see those folks. I mean, at 43, you're going to be at rain, 39 rain, 38 rain, even at 36, probably in Litchfield, some rain. And by that point, even here in Louisville, because of the heat island that we have, we could see a little bit of rain mix in the afternoon.
And often we see that around here where the suburbs stay as snow, but we get a bit of rain in downtown near the airport. We end this thing by 11 p.m. with the light snow and rain showers finally getting out of here. Notice these temperatures, most of us above freezing. So the roads will still be in okay shape Tuesday evening, as long as they're treated and all that. But by Wednesday morning, could see a slick spot or two as temperatures try to drop a few more degrees down a little closer to that freezing mark. This is the map that everybody's been looking for.
Always get asked, how much? We don't care about all the other nonsense. How much? And again, we haven't changed this much throughout the day. And in fact, when Carson was on over the weekend, we were all chiming in with to the forecast with Carson. And it's in general 1 to 2 inches in that lighter blue. But where we see the heavier snow bound between the Interstate 64 corridor and areas to our south to the parkways, there will be that 2 to 4 inch zone with locally higher totals. So that's the place to watch for the higher totals. Now, I will say some of the high resolution data coming in now is showing a little bit of a shift farther to the south. And I haven't looked at the latest run. Did you look at yours?
I will here in just a second. But what Kevin's talking about for you weather,
so let me just pull it up.
The 0Z HRR model, the HRRR, the HRRR. We called it the pirate model when I was in college because RRRR. Anyway, but you get the idea. This. He didn't know that. But you get the idea. This new data is literally coming in, and it's showing, well, it had been showing at least a little bit of a southward jog previously this evening. So Kevin is looking up this newest run of the data now to see what it shows for where the heaviest band of snow is going to be. You see that locally higher totals right there on this side of the screen that I'm pointing at here. That's where we're going to see any sort of shift in where that may be is based on this latest data. And the reason this is such a critical piece of data here is because it's got the new weather balloon information for 0Z, which is basically midnight GMT time, Greenwich Mean Time for those folks in Europe. And that's kind of the universal starting of the next day's worth of weather data. Kevin has it pulled up now.
Yeah, I'm sorry I can't show it to you easily here, but we're looking at the actual.
It somewhat looks like our snow map, though, which is the interesting part. It's kind of close.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Our snow map would still be a little farther north. The heaviest snow on the, and again, we're looking at one model. Yep. It happens to be the high resolution model. but it does show the heavier totals across parts of LaRue, Marion County, and then farther to the east.
So it would jog this down
it would
about
pull
a county.
this just down maybe one county, which would put us in a lower snow total here in Louisville. They're cranking out 2.5 inches, which is still in our forecast. We're anywhere between 1, if you go into southern Jefferson County, 4. So we've got 1 to 4 painted across Jefferson County. If you're looking at our snow map there, 1 to 2 in the northern edge, 2 to 4 in the southern edge. So for Louisville, we're probably still in decent shape. We may just need to expand that darker blue category down into, say, northern Marion and northern LaRue County. And we'll have different sets of data. That's a quick snapshot at 8:35 in the evening here of what that model looks like. We'll have a lot more data between now and the time we go on the air at 11 o'clock. So we'll be really waiting to see what the NAM model does and the other subsequent runs of the HER.
Yeah, so we've got the HER, we've got the NAM, we've got some other high-res data like the FV3, the ARW. All this stuff we'll just kind of peruse over tonight before we make that change to our snow map here. By the end of the broadcast here, we should be able to show that 0Z data here as that rolls in. It takes a few minutes for it to roll into our graphics machine.
The good part is, as we're going through this, we're close enough in time to be able to share that information with you of at least what the one model is saying. So what we're looking at when we're looking at these models in general are not just what the one output is, but the trend. Is it, are the other runs bringing it further south now that we're getting the better data? Like Ryan mentioned, the balloons that have gone up into the atmosphere are putting in real-time data. So are we seeing that trend farther south? Because we'll start pinpointing that out usually at about this time. Within 12 hours of the actual onset of weather, we should start to have better data. And that's where we're at now.
Kevin loves the data here. It's really an important part of what we do is looking at all of these different weather models, looking at surface observations as we go throughout the overnight hours, seeing where temperatures are responding correctly, seeing where temperatures are too warm, too cold, and then starting to adjust our forecast based on a nowcasting regime as opposed to just looking at computer models. And we do have like super short-term analysis data that's almost like a computer model that kind of gives us a picture of the current atmosphere that we look at for that super high-res analysis. There's your winter storm warning.
And there it is. And it does include the counties that I mentioned as if we drag our higher totals down south, anywhere from LaRue County over into Marion County, you are under the winter storm warning. The Weather Service places the warnings here. So those went into effect at 7 p.m. and they'll last until Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. for the winter storm warning that you see in pink. The purple shaded region would be the winter weather advisory. And that's just where you expect lower totals, because to our south, you're going to mix with or transition to rain. And to our north, you're not really going to be in the bulk of the precip. So that'll fall along and south of the Ohio River, generally along and south of 64, really. So that's the winter storm warning that we have in place.
Yes. So when you saw your phone go off today, maybe your Amazon device was like, hey, there's a new alert. That's what this was right here. And again, that's typically for 4 or more inches of snow. But again, it's not a guarantee that you see 4 or more inches. It's just based on where you could have some potential for that to go to 4 or plus, just kind of quickly there. So that's the latest on the warning.
Yeah, we have the timing here of when we expect the heaviest snow to fall. Again, we kept saying it's through the morning hours. It's really going to begin to crank up, and it'll crank up slowly and then really ramp up. So you're going to notice maybe 4 or 5 a.m. starting to see some snow by 6 or 7. Should be snowing pretty good across areas just to our south, and then lifting in here between that 6 and 8 a.m. time frame. And between 10 and noon, probably when we're going to see our heaviest snowfall, temperatures by that point are likewise probably going to be just at or above freezing here in the city. Outlying areas may be just below freezing, but regardless, remember it's about the rate that the snow falls, and that's where we see the accumulation.
And when you have a rate of precipitation that's higher than not, it typically stays as snow because it's literally pulling down cold air from aloft to keep that snowflake intact before it melts. So heavier precipitation rates typically stay as snow. When they get lighter, it may start to transition back to just a little bit of light drizzle. And by the way, freezing rain and sleet probably not going to be in this equation for this particular event.
Thank goodness.
And we are very happy about that.
Those are the ones that are really tough because they can bust a snow forecast so easily. And of course, the impact is so much greater. I mean, the last time you get that sheet of ice, and it's a mess for sure.
Kevin, if you'd like to show the latest data from the HRRR there and kind of pair it up with our forecast, what you can do is just put max 2 on router 1 there on our physical switch there, and we'll be able to show that up for you. There you go. So that's the latest high resolution rapid refresh model, the Pirate model, HRRR. And you see where that heaviest total is right now on this data from E-Town to Lebanon. That would basically take our heaviest zone and shift it down about a county here. So we'll see how that works out. You can see the heat island effect right there, that 0.72 in Louisville with the higher totals east, west, and south of the city. We'll see if that does play a factor into how much snow we get in the city. Again, that was just one piece of data. This is our forecast. This is really what you need to pay attention.
Yeah, and so the question will be is how we adjust this map. Will we drag that heavier snow down? There's a couple of things we have to look at before we say yes to that. We've got one piece of data that says, yes, you need to do it, right? That was the latest HRRR run. We'll have a couple more runs of that in before the 11 o'clock show. We'll have additional models coming in. The question is, how far will that warm nose get? Because even if that much falls, it doesn't mean that much accumulates, because we may wind up melting more as we bring that snowfall in. And if the warmer air comes far enough north, we may not wind up with that much. So a really good analysis for us was going to have to be where that warm air comes up to, the timing of that, and how much we really think will wind up accumulating and falling across the southern part of the viewing area. It's going to be tough to get more than 3-4 inches of snow south of the in our southern tier of counties from, say, Hart, Greene, Taylor, and Adair, which clearly we have painted in the less than 1 inch category, simply because of that warmer air moving in.
And this is why it's so important to kind of know where you live on a map like this, because it's going to be tough to figure out how much snow you're going to get based on our forecast if you don't know which county you're in here. Again, this is the HRRR model that you're seeing is one run of one model.
Look how narrow that is, though. I mean, you're talking about southern or northern Bullitt County down to southern Hardin. I mean, you're talking one county width, maybe 2 county widths of the intense snow.
And think of how lucky or unlucky we are that it's right across our counties of our viewing area here like this, that we get this narrow stripe through here. And that's just kind of the most intense area of snow right on that rain snow.
I can hear the snow lovers in southern Indiana. They're like, come on, come further north, come on.
Yeah, that's not the case. The heaviest snow doesn't always fall in our northernmost counties. That's not really a rule. It just happens sometimes. But in this instance, it will likely be just south of Louisville where we see the heaviest snow.
All right, we'll leave the snow map up for a second. Let's take snow questions now. Then we'll go through a few of those. We'll take a break, come back, and talk about the next alert day, which is storm related, followed by another snowmaker. But let's see what we have.
Candace has a question here. Wouldn't the rain melt the snow that falls in the morning? So if south of Louisville, if you're to get some rain in the afternoon, would that help to melt the snow?
Yes. I mean, the answer is absolutely yes. The fact is, it depends how much you get, because remember, we're talking about the rate, the intensity that it falls. Because if you get a couple inches of snow, it takes quite a decent rain to wash it away. We know that because we just went through that. We had a nice snowpack on the ground, and it still took days. Plus, it finally took the very warm temperatures to wipe it out. But yes, the rain will help alleviate problems and certainly help create the slush versus a packed snow on roads, which is typically a little, while slush is slick, it's still a little bit better than just snow-covered roads.
Our friend Cameron is asking on Facebook, hey, I'm just joining the HRRR that we just showed there, showing that southern trend. Could that trend continue? Could it keep going? Is what he's asking.
Well, I mean, at some point you're going to run into just warmer air and it's going to be rain, right?
Exactly.
So, yes, it could, but we're so close to the event now, we should just be miles away instead of, dozens of miles away from adjusting the track.
All right. So Victor's kind of new to these models here. He's like, which of these models are usually more accurate for Louisville, long-term, midterm, now casting 12, 24 hours. What do we do about all this, right?
Yeah, well, that's always a good question, right? We obviously know the models and their bias. They all have biases of different things. And we don't have time to really go through all of those. But in this scenario, usually what we like to do is focus on the high resolution data that's coming in. The long term did a nice job of getting us to where we were last week to say, hey, we've got enough agreement. Because for a while the models diverged, meaning they were not in agreement. But then they came into agreement. We're like, okay, well, let's watch this. That's interesting. We've got agreement. That's one thing you look for. And we're talking in the long term. We're talking 5 to 10 days out. Once we get agreement, we're looking for consistency in that agreement. And once we had about 4 or 5 model runs of consistency, we said, all right, the models have quit diverting from each other. Now they're in agreement and there's been consistency. Let's raise the alert day flag. And that's what we did last week because of the GFS and the Euro, which are the long range models. Now, as we get a little closer, the medium range models play a big role in how we handle the alert day that we've already raised.
Yeah, and that's like the NAM model, and it's the higher resolution NAM nest that we have as well. And then finally, once we get to short term, short range, we're in HRRR land. We've got the graph model that we have here from our weather graphics vendor. There's things like the ARW, the FV3. There is a whole big list of short range models these days, and they're pretty good. Some of them do better with severe weather. Some of them do better with snow. The Canadians have their own called the RDPS that we look at sometimes. It likes snow, and it likes to give us a lot of snow that never comes
Canadians.
to fruition. The Canadians are great at weather forecasting, but their regional weather model for us is just not great.
Right.
But that happens.
It's always
that's
heavy
okay.
on the snow.
Yeah, that's okay. So we look at all of this data, and then we have to use our education, our knowledge of weather, and our knowledge of previous events to put all this together in a nice, neat package that you see on TV and on our live stream.
Yeah, and the fact is the goal is to always just keep drilling down hour by hour as we get closer to the time period to drill down to the most precision that we can. And that's why nowcasting becomes incredibly important during the event because not everybody sees the same. It's not a blanket statement, Some areas are going to get more than 4 inches of snow. Where that is, I don't know right now. And I probably won't know until we start to really analyze the radar tomorrow. And sometimes you don't know until hours before, if we're lucky, because we can start to see those bands really set up. So that's why nowcasting becomes critically important in snow and severe weather, by the way. It also is super important when we're in, whether it's severe thunderstorms or tornadoes, that we're nowcasting, that we're really analyzing the radar. I can look at the radar now. It's not going to tell us much for tomorrow of what's going to happen here. But once it starts to unfold over top of us, that nowcasting and radar analysis becomes super important.
All right, we'll do just a few more comments before we move on to our next alert day here. Allie just moved here from Florida. She wanted some snow moving here, and I guess was the right time of year to move here. Yeah, you picked one of the best winters in 20 plus years.
It was our 8th snowiest January.
Can you believe that? Since 1998, the most we've had.
Yikes.
Logan says, can you all order sunshine and 70 degrees?
I placed that order a while back. It's stuck in the mail.
Whoops. That's more than just a weather commentary right there, I think, folks. I like that. Let's see. We've got a comment from YouTube here. I can't pronounce the name of the YouTube user. It's just a bunch of A's.
I think it's
I feel like the highest snow totals always goes out east of Louisville. We always get snubbed, LOL. There's actually a good reason for that. The elevation, believe it or not, gets higher as you go east of Louisville. Once you get into the Bluegrass region, closer to Lexington, you've added about 500 plus feet to your elevation. You're almost at 1,000 feet of elevation there. And that elevation not only fosters slightly colder temperatures, but also creates a little bit of lift in the atmosphere. And you can get higher amounts of precipitation over the I-75 corridor than I-65, all because of the topography of Kentucky.
Yeah, and we see that a lot in the eastern part of the state. I mean, that happens
Amazing,
so many times. All right, any more?
At this point, we don't have any more, so we'll move on to our next alert day.
All right, so we're going to have to reset some graphics here. So as we do that, we'll say just hold tight. It's going to take us 1 minute, and we'll come right back. So give us just 1 minute, and we'll be back with more on the next alert day. Welcome back here. We are talking Alert Day City. Man, are we fatigued yet with the crazy weather we've had? Massive storm in January, came back into February with wild weather, record highs, tornado warnings last week, and here we are faced with another winter storm and could be faced with more strong storms by the weekend. So it's like this, rubber band effect in nature.
And I get a lot of questions.
How many?
I have gotten a lot of questions by my family members and friends asking, what is going on with severe weather in February? Is that something we typically get? Is that rare? And it's actually not super rare. We did it last year. Yeah. In February, I always like to call it Springuary because it feels like spring sometimes. It's kind of the lead into the March, April, May severe weather season. So this can sometimes be sort of the first warning shot of severe weather we see for the year.
Yeah, always was March, was always sort of that month that bounced back and forth. But in recent years, February, we've seen more and more of that. So it's just the nature of where we're at. The fact is, nature likes to be balanced, doesn't like to be out of balance. So obviously, if we have a 70-degree day, nature always wants to kick us back to being in equilibrium, and that means big changes have to take place. With that, oftentimes comes precipitation, and depending on the sort of temperature of the air mass determines what type. Well, we have a couple of things to talk about because we mentioned and we talked at length about the snow that's coming in tonight and early tomorrow. Of course, that melts. And we mentioned that southern parts of the viewing area would be in just rain. And with additional rainmakers coming in for the middle part of the week, so we got three systems lined up. The one that comes in tomorrow, the one that comes in on Wednesday, the one that comes in on Saturday into Sunday. So those are the three that we'll focus on. But we have the flood watch already in place for the southern part of the viewing area and the southern part of the Commonwealth.
Yeah, and that flood watch goes until Wednesday at 7 a.m. I suspect we will have more flood watches at some point this week that may cover more than just those counties. But this is kind of the Wednesday version of the rain coming, and it'll be a soaking rain. But Kevin, thankfully, this isn't going to be a super long-lasting rain on Wednesday. This will be kind of a quick shot of some heavier rain at times.
At times. And the good part is the bulk of the time, it's not heavy.
Right.
And so I think we get away with this. But we already know that the ground is so soggy and wet and saturated that adding anything to the river basin is going to create a rise on the rivers. And we're already seeing some flooding, namely the Rolling Fork. I grew up along the banks of the Rolling Fork.
Nelson,
I know how that can flood.
They went into minor flood stage last week during all this.
Correct. So I suspect we'll see more river flooding take place, especially next week, right? Because by then we would have added a lot of water. We take the melting snow, we take this rainmaker on Wednesday, and then of course we have additional rain coming in for the weekend. So how much rain through the middle part of the week? And this is, again, the flood watch is in place. And you can see some areas down that way picking up anywhere between 0.5 to 1.5 inches of rain.
Yeah, and that means that places like the Green River Basin down there will need to watch for some of that minor flooding because we're going to add this into that aquifer, to that basin, and then we're getting ready to add in Saturday's rain and then any sort of snow or rain that we get that next week here. So southern Kentucky is already waterlogged, and you guys are going to see inches of rain over about the next 7 days. not a great situation for downstate in the Commonwealth.
Did you call it Aquaphor? Is that what they put on like a baby's butt?
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that for a rash?
Aquaphor. It's the fur. He's hysterical.
That's hilarious.
He thinks he's funny at least. I love it.
Who said I didn't know anything about kids? All right, let's jump to the alert day. This is for Saturday, not tomorrow. We see the next front move our way. Powerful system. Bears watching. Do we know for sure if we're going to have severe weather? No, we don't. But what we do know is what data that we have that points to this. And if you look at this map closely, you can sort of see what's beneath it. And that's a little bit of red that indicates the instability that we have.
Bingo.
And that's going to be pushed up on those southerly and southwesterly winds.
So a lot of questions still surrounding the timing, the placement. Right now, timing would likely be during the afternoon for any stronger storms. The placement would likely be, probably in our southern Kentucky counties for the highest chance, only because that makes the most sense this time of year. You guys have the highest amount of moisture content in the air. You guys have the highest amount of temperature, the most amount of instability here. So that's going to be a zone that we watch. Already, some of the machine learning or AI data. Ooh, everybody say ooh, everybody say ah. It's already starting to key in on this being a southern severe weather outbreak that we would be kind of on the northern edge of without as much of a bite to it as what they would see down across the Gulf Coast states in the I-40 corridor. Again, this is still far out in time. Storm Prediction Center does not have a risk area out yet, given the setup. Given the AI data, given what we know about storm systems that move through here this time of year with this kind of warmth, it was just a prudent idea to put a wave weather alert day on this, knowing that there may need to be some adjustments. But for now, that's what we've got.
Yeah, and again, that's what it's all about. We did this the last time with the severe threat and did it many days in advance, and look what happened. I mean, there was no outlook from the Storm Prediction Center at that time. Mm-hmm. We went through the same data that we have in place for today, looking forward to Saturday. So can it change? Absolutely. The weather is always in motion, so things can change. And if we can pull the alert day off of Saturday, great. If not, well, we've got it in place, and frankly, we may have to add one for Sunday. So we'll talk about that. We get the threat of the strong storms through here with some very heavy rainfall.
Not good.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is this will be putting down anywhere 2, 3, 4 inches of rain in places across the Tennessee Valley, southern Kentucky, eastern Kentucky. This is a big, big rainmaker. It's a sharp system, which means that on the backside of this, we turn much colder. We'll go from highs in the 50s, right? That's not record highs in the 70s where we were, but we'll go from highs in the 50s and maybe low 60s for some back into the 20s by Sunday. So talk about trying to equal out. It is going to be weather whiplash in here over the next weekend. And then consequently, we're in for a few snow showers, minor accumulation.
Because of course we are. That's just the pattern we're in, where these systems, they move right through Kentucky, the areas of low pressure, or southern Indiana, and then we get of course, the rubber band effect of cold air on the backside of this thing. So this is the European model's rainfall product between now and 7 days from now, next Monday at 11 p.m. And that orange is between 4 and 6 inches of rain, basically E-Town South, Louisville, between 2 and 4 inches of rain. This is going to be a major problem for the Tennessee Valley. It's going to be a big problem for areas like the Green River, downstate Kentucky. That's going to probably go into flood stage or more in some of those areas that get hardest hit. The groundwater just can't take all of this extra water getting put on top of it. And you see all these chances here in the wave weather 10-day earliest.
I mean, look at this. It's just up, down, downtown, all around, everywhere. So we go from the 30s in the alert day tomorrow, climbing into the 40s with rain showers on Wednesday, back down on Thursday and Friday, at least Valentine's Day. If you're headed out for evening plans or anytime during the day, it looks decent, but cool. 39, average mid-40s, by the way, for this time of year, right around 47. We're going to be back up into the mid-50s here in Louisville on Saturday, a little warmer to our south, and then bang, that front moves through and we're back into the 20s with those snow showers on Sunday. And then it's a long weekend for some. President's Day,
That's right.
A holiday for some.
Thanks,
Stays
holiday.
chilly. Morning temperature in the teens, daytime high on Monday, 30. That's a ways out. but it still shows signs of staying active through that time.
Yeah, Brian Good and I were looking through super long range data today, going through the end of the month, and we may see more decent cold. When I say decent cold, I'm talking highs in the 20s, lows in the single digits or teens.
Oh, there's nothing decent about that.
Decently cold, maybe. I don't know. It's disrespectful, if you ask me. Tawana Andrew invented that. But this is the problem. We are not done with winter yet. I know all these little spring jaunts that we've had with severe weather and highs in the 60s and 70s may give us a little spring fever, but February is a winter month. March is also a winter month. Sometimes we have our biggest winter storms in March. We are not out of the woods yet. We've got about, what is this? Today's February 10th. We got at least another month of solid winter before we really start to claw out into spring.
Ugh.
And I know that's not good news for so many folks.
I'm just like, if it's going to snow, just let it unleash, right? I mean, I just soon have, a nice...
Let her rip.
Yeah, let them go sledding and
what was January 5th then? Woo!
Yeah, that was perfect.
Let
Well,
her
minus
rip.
the ice. Yeah, that made it hard
bad.
to do anything.
Yeah,
with, though.
I
That was
like
the
that.
problem. It was like, you can't go sledding because it's like.
And if you didn't shovel it in shifts, then
Ugh.
you were left with this big icy mound you're trying to break through, which was a nightmare.
Yeah, and I'm out there like trying to chunk out the ice, and it's like, oh.
Even your snowblower is like, I give up.
Yeah,
No,
there was
thanks.
no hope.
That's not going to work for me.
I want to show you the temperatures where we've been so far for the winter, because when we look at the pattern, you can kind of get an idea of if we've been above average or below. And you can see the highs have been high and the lows have been low. And
Winter of
consequently,
extremes.
February has been nothing but above average so far, but we're getting ready to change that. You can see January came in well below average, while December rounded up to be just over 3 degrees above.
Where was all that snow and cold when Christmas came around? See that you can see Christmas there, all those crazy red bars, 20 degrees above normal during that time. We wanted the snow on Christmas, but instead it waited a month into January, which just stinks.
All right, let's see if we have any other questions, and then we'll wrap it up.
Let's see here. Let's see. Am I going to need the shovel, or will rain wash it away? If you wanted to shovel this snow on Tuesday, you certainly could. Here's the problem, and I'm going to step on my soapbox. Not all of us are conditioned to shovel heavy, wet snow.
Hey, who are you talking to? Why are you looking my way when you say that?
Well,
you all saw it. It's
I-
like not all of us.
no, I was looking down at the monitor. But not all of us are conditioned to shovel heavy, wet snow. And you often have folks who overdo it and they go into a cardiac event or cardiac arrest when they're trying to shovel this stuff. And then the ambulance has to come, and that's no good for anybody.
Oh, no.
So please be careful. If it seems like you're overexerting yourself, you are, all right? So take it easy. The neighborhood kid next door would do it for $20, and they're a lot more healthy than you. So maybe pay them instead. And yes, it will melt eventually on Wednesday here. So you might not even need to, shovel if you don't want to. Tiffany says, can you show the snow total?
And there it is. So I wanted to just pop that up while she was watching. And the bottom line is this may get adjusted before 11 o'clock. We're seeing data just coming in, and we'll have more before 11. If it changes, the odds of what would change would be the heavier snow band would come a little farther south. So that's what we're looking at, and we just have to look over some data before we make that final change. We didn't have enough data to make that as we came in from our 7 o'clock show that went right up against 8 o'clock here. So if the data continues to point in that direction, you'll notice the darkest blue coming a little further south and the lighter blue likely coming a little further south.
E-Town in Lebanon, watch the 11 o'clock newscast tonight.
I still think we're good along the parkways. I mean, I think if you pay attention to just north and south of the parkways, you're in a pretty good zone for some heavier snow. So we'll make that decision as we get closer.
Todd says he's overexerting himself by just watching this stream.
Todd has never overexerted himself ever. I can say that. I know Todd.
Carrie says, everybody just stay on the couch.
Yeah,
Don't
that's what
shovel
I'm
the
talking
snow.
about. Popcorn and watch it snow.
Sandy's asking about how our spring is looking as far as severe weather goes. It could be active if this up-down pattern continues like this.
Well, we have to break out of the pattern, and right now there's no signs of that easing. And when I say break out of it, we need to do that before we get into the doldrums of summer, which we all know that spring season is usually back and forth anyway. So as long long as we're working in the same type of environment that we have, it'll be busy.
Ethan recounts last year at this time, he had a tornado in Henry County near Port Royal, Kentucky, hit about 1/8 of a mile from his house. The reason I know of Ethan is because we got that photo in, showed it on the air there. And yeah, severe weather happens in February, can happen to you. So always make sure that you're weather aware, even in the middle of winter, for any sort of severe weather. So Anna's asking, how bad is this alert day for Saturday? So like we've explained what it is and kind of when it is and maybe where it is, but just how bad.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
Right now, all we know is there's enough that has us watching it that we said, you know what, everybody should sort of pay attention and let's see how it goes over the next few days. So there's not a level we can put on it at this point. It would be very low if we had a level because we don't know. So we just have to watch it as we get closer. There will be a lot of weather that happens between now and Saturday, and all of that has an impact on Saturday. So we'll just have to see how that unfolds.
Jackson on YouTube says, well, I guess I can say hello to my allergies again. Here's the thing. It'll be interesting to see how this evolves if we do indeed get into a pattern where you kind of get the plants starting to wake up in some of these warm spells and then it crashes back down again. And unfortunately can damage those trees that have early blooms. We'll see if that happens late this month into early next month. That could actually prevent some of the worst of the allergies if that happens, and unfortunately damage our fruit trees, which would not be good.
No, as though prices aren't high enough, right?
Oh my gosh, right? From your backyard not even working would not be good. Let's see here. Christian says, one more big snowstorm, please, and spring can be here for us.
Okay, I go with that.
Yes.
Wind damage on Saturday. I saw that fly by.
Yeah, it's we'll see. It's kind of along the same lines of how bad is the alert day?
Yeah, too early to tell.
We don't know here just yet.
Please stand by.
Yeah, as they say here. Let's see. A lot of folks, some of the weather nerd community here on YouTube. Hey, if you put weather with Jackson on your YouTube handle, I'm going to assume you're a weather nerd, and that's a good thing, by the way. Talking about for Saturday here, that he doubts they'll issue the slight risk here if there is to be one for a little bit for Saturday. And of course, there is a severe weather possibility, especially just to our south, across the deep south, over the next few days as well there. Snow during the snow moon.
There you go. Sounds appropriate.
I see what's going on.
Why not?
Yes. The snow moon that we can't see because it's been cloudy for like 10 days.
All right. I tell you, here's one question I think Allie has here.
Oh,
you may have answered this, but Southern Kentucky is showing rain. Is that what to expect around 10 a.m. for Southern Kentucky?
Yeah. So at this point, between 8 and 10 a.m., if your definition of Southern Kentucky is like near Campbellsville, Columbia, if you're near Hart County, if you're near Barron County, then yeah, it would be mainly rain. If your definition of Southern Kentucky is a little closer to just south of E-Town, though, like north of maybe Magnolia, then you'll have some snow, and it won't just be rain there. So you see this map right here. If you're in Munfordville, if you're in Columbia, that's what we're looking at, is the potential there for mostly a rain event. So if you don't see any sort of like snow polygon over you, just assume it's green. That means that it is rain. So that's, kind of what we're seeing down there in Southern Kentucky. Thank you to Allie for that question here. And of course, let's see what else we got in here. Let's see. Chris says he's going to be salting and pushing snow from Louisville down to Hodgenville. We'll help keep you updated, I'm guessing, on what he sees. Yes, hats off to all the folks who try to keep our roads clear. Thankfully, tomorrow won't be the worst day in the world for that because temperatures will be at or just above freezing. So the road treatment will work well. You'll be able to push the snow out of the way without any sort of ice.
That hurts your ear and theirs at
like,
home.
There we go.
I got kicked out of everything.
I know all that had to happen because of our KVM switch here at work being a fun guy to work with.
I don't know where you're going with that.
Yeah. It kicks us offline from our weather graphics machines like every 6 hours. And sometimes it's the middle of severe weather or a Wave Weather Now live stream like the one we're on right now.
It happens.
Oh, joy to the world.
All right. We do have to go. It's 10 after 9. We've got some data to look over. We'll adjust our maps accordingly. We'll see you back on the air on Wave News at 11 o'clock. So we'll have our update then. We just want to say thanks for tuning in. We appreciate everybody that has had the chance to be with us on this live stream. And we'll do more tomorrow afternoon, perhaps. Well, first of all, tomorrow morning, Brian will be on probably even a little earlier tomorrow morning, somewhere around that 8, 9 a.m. time frame. So tune in. You'll really see what's going on because it'll be underway. We'll be talking not only about Tuesday's alert day, but the one that follows on Saturday. We'll see if we have to add one to Sunday. That's still up in the air. Really depends on what happens on the backside of that system in terms of any snow and its impact. Obviously, being a weekend, it's not as impactful for it being a Sunday with as many folks on the road, but it bears watching, especially with the big drop in temperature. So we'll say goodbye for now. We'll see you tonight on Wave News at 11 o'clock. Hope everybody has a great evening. Thanks for watching.